All right, everyone, I'm going to kick this off. Welcome to our webinar. I am Casey Dill, and I'm going to be facilitating this webinar with our two presenters. So thank you so much for your time. And we wanted just to start off and kick it off with everyone who's on the call to put in the chat where you're from, so what state, city, and what's your role. We just kind of want to get an idea of who's in the room and what the representation is. Can you guys drop in the chat? Ooh, Georgia.
Wow.
Nice, John.
Hello.
Got some representation. Oh, Jeannie from our team's on. Hi, Jeannie. If you guys who just came on, if you could type where you're from and what your title is, that would be great. Just gonna take 2 more minutes to see what kind of people we have in the room. So thankful to have you guys. Hi, Jessica. Thanks for coming. Ooh, Mercourt, mental health first aid instructor from California. Very nice. Thanks for joining us. Oh, hi, Liberty, school counselor in California. Very nice. Kathy out in California, Cherry Valley. Diversion program manager, San Diego. Love it. Thank you. Anyone else? Brave souls. Well, thank you all. This is going to be a highly interactive webinar. We're really excited. I got a little test run of it with the presenters, and it's going to be really good. You're going to get a bunch of amazing tools for wellness. So if you could grab a pen and paper, we are going to be doing some exercises. So make sure you take a little bit of time to just grab that at your desk and have that ready. So as you all know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we strongly believe in mental health and well-being for our students and staff in our schools at Collaborative Learning Solutions. You know, with the pandemic's been going on, it's been a couple crazy times, and we've been having to navigate a lot. So we offer mental health and training solutions for LEAs, and that's why we wanted to host this webinar, to get some thought leadership out there and just give you guys some tools that you can take within your schools and just to help you. So this is the first of 2 webinars for the month of May, and this will just be an hour long, and we're going to try to honor time. So I'm just going to go, if we go to the next slide, I'm just going to give a little brief overview of who we are. So for anyone who's not familiar with our organization's aware, we are Collaborative Learning Solutions. We are a K through 12 educational consulting company, and we're based out of Temecula, California, so in Southern California. And I'm actually in Arizona. We have an office out in Tempe, right by Arizona State University. So we're a thought partner for school districts and states, regional and county offices, and we work with school districts. We help them develop school climate guidelines and accountability systems that create safer, more supportive, and thriving learning environments. We've been in business for over 10 years. We do have partnerships with the California Department of Education and the Washington Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction. So we have some presence there, and everything we do is for the students of today who will be leaders of tomorrow. And I'll just hit on our mission because that grounds us in everything we do. So our mission drives our team, and it's to change the trajectory of our marginalized youth. We want to unlock opportunities through partnerships with educational and social service agencies to address system improvements and really get to the heart and get sustainable work done within our school systems. And with that being said, I'm going to kick it off to our presenters. We have Otzi Sanchez and Jenna Cataletta, and they are educational consultants with our team.
Great, thank you, Casey. So because this presentation is solely about mindfulness, about getting ourselves grounded, the first thing we're going to do is just practice just that. So what I'd like you to do is just sit back in your chair, put your feet on the ground, start to relax your shoulders, and just take a moment. If you're comfortable, close your eyes, or you can look away, but just start to feel the breath in your body. Take a couple of deep breaths. And take a moment to connect with your breath and your intention for today. You want your intention to be fully with yourself, with others in the room. And just give yourself a bit of gratitude for giving yourself this moment to do something for you today. Let's take another couple deep breaths. All right, so hopefully that helped just to kind of center ourselves, set our positive intentions, and we can start getting into the rest of this presentation. So first I'll just start with who I am. My name is Otzi Sanchez. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I've been with Collaborative Learning Solutions for about 2 years, doing just this, working with schools, with teachers, with educators, with districts, doing all kinds of different things that will help for the well-being of our students. You can see a little bit about me here. I love the outdoors and dancing. I spend a lot of time with family, and you can see my little fur babies there. So you can see a little bit about that there. I'm based out of Southern California. And recently I went on a hot air balloon for the first time. So that's a little bit about me, and I will hand it off to Jenna to introduce herself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jenna Cataletta, and I am also an educational consultant with Collaborative Learning Solutions. Most of my background as an educator has been in the classroom, working with students with emotional and behavioral disabilities. I taught in California, work a lot in California as a consultant, taught in Colorado as well as Arizona. I am also a certified mindfulness and meditation instructor. So what I love about this space that we are going to do with each other today and these activities, it's really combining my love for supporting teachers in the classroom and students in the classroom with their well-being with mindfulness and meditation. Personally, I live in a small town in Arizona. It's called Pine. We like to joke that we have more elk in Pine than actually people. Elk are everywhere. So very, very small town. My three loves are my family. I am married, and I'm also a mother. I have two children, a 6-year-old daughter named Lilia and an 8-year-old son named Lucas. So my family is one love. Also getting out in nature is a love of mine. And then I'm very passionate about cheese. It's a love of mine. However, I do think I am lactose intolerant. So it's a little bit of a love-hate relationship there. So that's a little bit about me and what I bring to today's 1-hour webinar. So our norms, first norm is to be where your feet are. That's very important. We are going to be doing a lot of experiential learning with each other. And so we're going to ask you to be very present virtually in this space as we talk about our mental health and our well-being. Next one is to be honest, and that's really just being honest with yourself and what your needs are at this time. We're going to ask you to lean into the content and even more so lean into the activities. We're going to be doing quite a bit of activities in the hour for you to actually feel in real time what it feels like to do some activities to improve your overall well-being. And last is just take care of your personal needs. We know that for probably all of us on here, we've worked all day. And so if you do need to step away, use the bathroom, take a phone call, we just ask you when you are back with us that you're present and you are where your feet are with us today.
And I think there was something you wanted to add about the chat as well.
Yes, thank you. So we will have, please, if you have any questions, comments, please put them in the chat, and Casey will be monitoring the chat throughout today's webinar. And we actually will have some time at the end. We'll be answering some of your questions in real time at the end of our webinar. So our goals for today is first and foremost, we're here for you. So please, in this moment, in this space, we're asking you to show up and focus all of your attention on you and your needs so you can support yourself during this hour. Secondly, we just want to ask that you walk away with strategies, even if it's just one strategy or tool that you really connected with to increase your mental wellness and regulate your stress, whether that's preventative stress, meaning I'm doing things day to day to help myself stay more regulated, as well as responsive stress, meaning I'm at the point of hyperarousal and I'm feeling a little stressed. How can I de-escalate back on down to support my mental health and my well-being?
Okay, so in order to get a gauge for where everybody is at today, we have a little Mentimeter activity. Hopefully you're familiar. If not, super easy. You can either take your phone and just scan over the QR code, or Casey is going to put the link in the chat for you. Thank you, Casey. And you can also just click on that. And you'll be responding to just a rating of where your general stress level is as you enter the space today, 5 being the highest. So just take a moment with that now, and we'll show you the results in just a moment. But take your time, kind of reflect on where you're feeling.
I don't see anyone in the Mentimeter yet. Please let me know if you need me to switch screen again to show the link and the information.
Yeah, because I actually entered mine just to see.
Yeah, I entered mine as well. I wonder-
Yeah, so I'm not sure what happened here.
Let's try refreshing. There,
There
we
we
go.
go.
Refresh. Sometimes we need that.
We're all about resetting today. So it looks like the majority of folks are in the 2 to 3 range, maybe a little bit of stress, something not too much. We have also some folks in the moderate stress level, and then we do have one person that's signing in there at the substantial stress level. And I just want to acknowledge that as a current trend. Many of the schools and educators and districts that we've worked with, there's just been a running theme of people that just feel really overwhelmed. It's been a really challenging year, especially in comparison with previous school years. So we're all definitely in the right place to be able to start to address some of that stress level. Okay, so let's get on. We have 2 more Mentimeters. This one is for us to be able to identify how this school year has been for you. And Casey again put the link in the chat, so you can do that or use the QR code. And there will be a prompt that's going to allow you to add 1 or 2 words to describe how this school year has been for you. Okay, so we're already seeing a few words here. Constant adjustments, exciting, hectic, trying, roller coaster. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Jenna, can we refresh one more time? See if there's more words.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
There we
Wow.
go. A bit
There
more.
we go. We've got some more. Worrisome, difference, constant adjustments, invigorating, building new business. That's exciting. Surreal, trial and error, stressful. So if you haven't used this word cloud format before, the bigger the words are, the more that they're being used, the more that people are using that specific word. So here we see challenging and exciting as being those bigger words. And I would definitely say that's probably a pretty good description. There's been a lot of different challenges, a lot of need to adapt, to pivot. But it's also kind of exciting because we are trying maybe some new things, implementing some different things. So this is great. Okay, we have one more Mentimeter. When I hear self-care, I think of, and Casey put the link in the chat for folks, or you can also use the QR code and we'll get some words, another word cloud there about self-care. All right. So self-care, we've got journal and reflect, taking a break, self-love, breathing, relaxing, inner strength, pausing and breathing, bliss, time for me, sleep, exercise, and peace. All right. So we are going to talk about a few of these throughout this, but we are also going to give you some other ways and strategies of being able to manage your stress, to self-regulate, and be able to give the best of yourself to your students and to your colleagues.
All right, so next we are going to transition to talk about what does it mean anatomically in the body and the brain when we are in a state of stress? What does that look like? So I'm going to have you follow along with me, so do what I do. So first you're gonna raise your hand like this. And you're gonna point here from wrist to your arm right here. So this, if we think about the brain, this part of the brain would be the brain stem. And the brain stem is part of the autonomic nervous system. So this is the most unconscious part of the brain. We don't think anywhere here in the brain. It's responsible for helping with our respiratory system. So we can breathe without thinking. That's good, right? It helps with circulating our blood throughout the body. It ensures that we have healthy sleeping patterns, that our heart is beating. This is our brain stem. Next, we're going to fold our thumb in. Point to your thumb. This part of the brain is the limbic system. And the limbic system, we can think about it, the emotional hub of the brain. Now we're going to talk about a little part of the limbic system called the amygdala. It's tiny and it's shaped like an almond. Some of you may be familiar with the amygdala. We talk about it quite a bit. We like to refer to the amygdala as the bodyguard. It helps keep us safe. Okay, now you're going to fold your hands, your fingers over like this. So now you have a closed fist. Point here. This part of our brain is called the prefrontal cortex. And we can think about the prefrontal cortex as our wise leader. It's right here on our forehead. So our prefrontal cortex allows us to make the best decision possible, right? This is our highest evolved part of our brain. So not all animals have it, just really humans do. So we want to think about what stress does in particularly to the brain. Okay, so let's go back to the amygdala, right inside here. So the amygdala is our bodyguard, and we can think of our amygdala as being way, way up on a watchtower. And the amygdala is overlooking our external environment. And what is it looking for? It's looking for anything that feels, sounds unsafe, right? So if we think of thousands of years ago, right, where we had to run for our life if there was a bear or a creature that could potentially harm us, that's what the amygdala is for. It's looking for danger, right? But fast forward 2022, it looks really different, right? Chances are we are not fighting for our lives running from bears, although once in a while I worry about that here in Pine. But typically we don't have to worry about that, right? So what does danger or an external environment that's unsafe, what could it look like? What could it sound like? It's all of those little stressors that add up, right? So we can think about a day when you wake up, maybe you didn't get good sleep, right? Oh, so we're losing a little bit of our prefrontal cortex. We're waking up feeling stressed. We make our coffee, we spill it on ourselves. Oh, we're feeling a little bit more stressed. Then there's traffic. We barely make it to the office or to our classroom. We're rushing. The bell rings. Kids are coming in. You've got 32 students. They're feeling not de-escalated. They are feeling in a state of escalation as well. You're right here, and somebody says something, and you get triggered. And what happens? We flip our lid. Okay, this is what Dr. Daniel Siegel says. We flip our lid. Now, what happens when we flip our lid? We react exclusively with our amygdala. We go into fight, flight, or freeze. We're familiar with that, most of us, right? And we may act in a way that is not in our best interest for ourselves or for our students, right? So how can we ensure throughout our day we're a little more regulated? We want to be here all of the time, but that's just not reality, right? We live in stressful times. Most of us have jobs that have a high demand on us. So what can we do to ensure that if we are feeling ourselves starting to become escalated, we can take a breath and calm ourselves? So we have good news for you. You can put your hand down. We also have a system within the body that helps with calming ourselves down, regulation, okay? And it is in our parasympathetic nervous system. We're gonna watch a quick little video about the main superhighway part of the parasympathetic nervous system. It's called the vagus nerve. All right, so that is just a brief snippet about the vagus nerve. So let me tell you a little bit more about the vagus nerve. It's the largest nerve in your body. It's part of the parasympathetic nervous system. So its main responsibility is to help you stay calm and regulated and help with improving your sleep and overall functions of the organs. And why that is so is because It starts at the base of your tailbone. It goes through all of your major organs and it ends right here at the base of the cheekbone. So when we think about the vagus nerve, we can actually strengthen and, like the video said, tone the vagus nerve in order to calm down quicker, okay? So we are going to feel what it feels like to connect to our vagus nerve doing a little activity. Now, before we do this activity, when we think of calming ourselves, maybe our students or our loved ones, typically we hear what? We hear, take deep breaths. You just got to take deep breaths, right? And sometimes it's like, oh, we got to take the deep breaths. Yes, we know about that. But the reason why is because when we're taking deep breaths out of our belly, we're actually connecting to our vagus nerve and we're strengthening our vagus nerve. So that's what's happening anatomically within the body to help us stay more regulated. Okay, so we are going to do our next activity. It's called bee breathing. Now, if you have headphones on, I'm going to ask you to take them off in a bit, not just yet, because I want you to hear the directions first before you take them off. So I am going to model how to bee breathe first, and then we are going to do 2 rounds together. I'm going to give you one more direction, and then we're going to do it one more time. Okay, so I'm going to model first. So what you're going to do first, if you are not at a spot where you're sitting down with your feet planted on the floor, go ahead and do that now. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel your tailbone, your sit bone, your seat connected to where you're sitting. Now you're going to take a deep breath in through your nose, nice and slow and long. You're going to hold your breath at the top. And when you hold your breath, you're actually going to take your two fingers, your index fingers, and you're going to plug your ears. And then when you exhale, you're going to exhale out your nose again and make a humming sound. So it's going to sound like this and look like this. Deep breath in. All right, we're going to do that twice together. Ready? Deep breath in, nice and slow through the belly. Hold, plug, exhale and hum. Okay, again, inhale. Plug your ears, exhale, hum. All right, we're going to do it one more time. And when you exhale, try rocking slowly back and forth, feeling the rhythm as you exhale. It looks funny. It's very impactful though for your body. Ready? So inhale, nice and slow. Hold it at the top. Plug your ears, exhale, hum and rock. And slowly bring your hands down to the desk or the space in front of you. Rest them. Open your eyes if your eyes are closed. And just take a moment and feel where you're at. Breathing in, breathing out, feel and notice any kind of change in the body, any kind of change in the patterns of the mind. Now, bee breathing just takes about a minute, right? It looks kind of funny. It sounds kind of funny, right? You could be kind of in the corner during independent reading and you're kind of rocking in the corner and doing your bee breaths, but it can be very helpful for yourself. And also when you bee breathe in front of your students, you're modeling an effective regulation strategy for them as well. All right. So we're going to move forward. We're going to continue to talk about our brains, specifically our brains in the present moment. Okay, we're going to do another activity. This involves your hand again. So this is your objective. Are you ready? You're going to bring your hand up to your face like this. And when I say go, all of your attention on your hand. All your attention on your hand. So this is your focal point. Nowhere else do I want your attention to be. Okay? Go. We're looking at our hand, all of our attention on our hand, nowhere else. All right, go ahead and bring your hand down. Now, for some of us, that could have been easy, right? Take my mind, laser focus into my hand. That's the only stimulus that I needed to focus on. For most of us, because we are all humans, our mind wanders. Now, on average, the adult brain wanders every 8 seconds. So if you found yourself, after 10 seconds, 8 seconds, we probably weren't counting, but if your mind wandered to anything else besides your hand, know that that is completely normal. That's what the brain does. So we want to think about being in the present moment. We hear about that a lot. So we want to think about this question. Who is in charge of your attention? You were given the task to focus on one thing only. And for most of us, we could just do it for a few seconds and our minds started to wander. So where does our minds automatically start to wander? We either think of past events, right? Dwelling on past events, something that has happened before the present time where we're at right now in space with each other, or we are worrying about things that are going to happen in the future. So our minds chronically bounce between past, future, past, future. Now, scientists have a name for this. It's actually called the default mode network. We can think of it as the monkey mind. So our brains are programmed to do this, bounce between past and future, right? But when we do that, we're really not with each other in space and present with each other. We can think of our mind actually as walking a new puppy on a leash. So if you have ever had a new puppy, you get that fancy new collar, you get the leash, you're super excited, like first walk out, you go on the sidewalk, and what does your puppy start to do? Probably not what you imagined, right? They're pulling on the leash, they're turning around and they're biting your ankles. They may go into your neighbor's yard and poop in your yard. They're all over the place. And that's what our minds can feel like sometimes when we are chronically in our default mode network and we're maybe not even consciously aware of past, future, past, future. It can feel like walking a puppy, a new puppy on a leash. So what do we do about it, right? Well, just like puppies, we have to train them. We have to practice and we have to train. That's what we have to do with our mind. We're pretty good in thinking about in our Western society about like strengthening our bodies, right? And toning our bodies. We want to do the same with our mind. So we're going to do another activity. It's called the game of breathing. And this activity is going to allow you to tap into self-awareness and see how often does your mind wander and where does it go when it wanders? So you are going to need those two. You need that piece of paper and you need that pen that Casey talked about at the beginning. So I'm going to give you a moment to get that and just rest it in front of you. All right, so now that you have your materials in front of you, I want you to think about the pen that you have in front of you as your breath, okay? So the breath goes where the pen goes. So if I'm breathing in, the pen goes, and I'm gonna make a mark on my paper going up. When I exhale, I'm going to go down, making downward marks on my paper, okay? Breath goes in, breath goes out. We're connecting breath and pen. It could be short little movements, fluid, you choose, but breath goes in, pen goes up, breath goes out, pen goes down. Now, here's your main responsibility for this. The minute that you notice your mind wandering outside of your breath, stop and note on your piece of paper where your mind went to. So I'm breathing in, breathing out. Oh, I noticed that my mind wandered, and you know where it went to? What am I going to make for dinner tonight? So I'm going to write dinner, or I may draw something that represents dinner for me. I'm going to go back, breathing in, breathing out. Oh, mind wandered again. Here's what I'm thinking about, or here's what I'm feeling. Maybe I'm getting a little anxious and thinking, when is this activity going to be over? Okay, so we're going to spend 2 minutes. Atsi, would you be able to time us? 2 minutes with your map, and we're silently and independently breathing on our map. Go.
Two minutes.
All right, if you're writing something, go ahead and finish what you're writing. When you're done, slowly place your pen back down. And just take a moment and look at your map. See what you notice about your map. Examining the movements of the pen. Where did your mind go more towards past or future, or maybe stimulus that's happening presently you heard or you're feeling, like something in the body, like tense shoulders? Just take a moment to notice. Now, what I love about when we do this with a live audience, it's really fun to see all the different mind maps. So you would think that maybe like, you know, all the mind maps look similar, but they don't. So it's interesting. Some of the movements are really long and wild and free, and some of them are really short, or they start like that. And once the mind calms a little bit more, they are a little bit more free flowing. So it's just fun to see that. All right, we are going to keep moving, and we're going to talk about this. What does it mean in the present moment? What does science tell us about the present moment and happiness? Are we more happy with being in the present moment?
Okay, so this was a really interesting study done in 2013 by a happiness researcher named Matt Killingsworth. He created this app so that people would be able to check in about what they were thinking at the moment and how they were feeling in relation to what those thoughts were. So he received 650,000 real-time responses from 80 different countries, 15,000 people, and 86 different occupations. And essentially what was found is that the more present focused we are, the more there is that perception or feeling of happiness, versus if our mind is wandering, whether to the past or to the future, it's still going to be correlated with more unhappiness. Even if we're thinking about, let's say, something happening in the future, let's say you're getting married or something in the future, because you're not really being present in the moment, because you're also maybe worried about what's going to happen at the wedding, you're still not feeling that more, I guess, more expansive feeling of happiness. So what we want to just consider here is the more present we are, the more happy we become. So we're going to do another activity. I know we're just going to swamp you guys with activities, so you have a lot of different things to try. So this one is a great one. This one is one of my personal favorites because I love lists and I love checking things off. And sometimes these lists, though, can cause us a bit of stress. So what we're going to do is take that paper, take your mind map. If you have that, I have a notebook, so I'm just flipping the page over. And what we're going to do is take a minute. I will set the timer for it. We're going to take a minute. You're just going to jot down your to-do list, everything you can think of that you need to do. Okay. And then we'll talk about that in just a minute. All right, start. Okay, and that's time. All right, so we're not going to do anything with this list just yet. Just kind of notice, looking at your list, how it's making you feel. Okay, and now we're going to do a brief meditation. Hold on to that list. Just keep it there for now. Oh, Jenna, did you switch the? It's on let's do list.
I didn't know if you wanted to do it first and then show them. Do you want?
Oh, okay. Either way.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is kind of like what we did at the beginning. First, just settle yourself in your chair, sit back, put your shoulders down. You can close your eyes or look away, whatever you're more comfortable with. But just notice your body. Try to relax any tension you might have. Put your shoulders back. Rest your jaw. Now bring your awareness to your breath. Connect with your breath. Allow the awareness of your breath to spread all over your body. Observing it from the top of your head, down your neck to your shoulders, your stomach, your arms, your legs, down to your feet. Just notice any feelings or sensations you might have in your body. And continue to breathe. Now slowly start wiggling your toes and your fingers. Bring your attention back to your space. And open your eyes. Roll your shoulders back. Now we're going to take this feeling that you have currently and go back to our to-do list. So just remembering how it felt initially, looking at your list, notice if you feel any difference. Try to add more to that list if you can. If you don't have anything, that's fine. If you do, try to add a couple more items. Okay. So this practice is really great for just being able to neutralize some of the feelings that we might have when we start to feel really stressed. Initially, sometimes looking at our list, it can feel really daunting or overwhelming. Everything might feel like a priority, but even just this brief 1 minute might change that feeling that you have to your list. So looking back at it, maybe it feels like, oh, this isn't as pressing as maybe I thought it was, or this I might be able to get somebody else to help me with, so that it doesn't become just more of a trigger and it becomes something more that we can rely on to make us feel a little bit more comfortable about the things that we have to do. Okay, so we are going to talk a little bit about boundaries, which is one of my favorite areas to talk about, especially as a therapist. Before we did that self-care word cloud and things that you think of when you hear self-care. And actually the word cloud that we all had was actually pretty good. There was a lot of just maybe like relaxing, words like relaxing, words like journaling, things that are a little more manageable. But sometimes when we talk about self-care, people think more about more external things, getting a massage, doing some going out, getting my nails done, or going out and taking a vacation. And those things are all wonderful and great ideas for self-care. However, there are things that we can't do on a daily, everyday basis, most of us anyway. Whereas boundaries are something that we can do every day throughout the day in order to help us manage our stress level. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this, especially because what I've noticed being in schools is that a lot of times we'll see educators and other people that work on school campuses crossing some of their personal boundaries, right? I hear a lot, oh yeah, I had to skip lunch, or I'm working during lunch. I have this, that, and the other thing to do, so I don't have time really to do any kind of self-care. So the reminder here is that setting boundaries is a way of caring for myself. It doesn't make me mean, selfish, or uncaring just because I don't do things your way. I care about me too. And that really is the message, is that as long as we are maintaining ourselves, we're also going to be able to give the best of ourselves to our students and to the children that we're responsible for. So what are some of the types of boundaries? We hear about physical boundaries quite a bit, especially in classrooms, right? It'll be like, oh, well, you know, keep your hands to yourself, or stand behind the line. Let's get into a line, right? Because we're just very aware about our physical space. But there's other types of boundaries as well that can also be crossed. So intellectual boundaries might be something we don't speak about very much, but it refers to thoughts and ideas. So for example, a lot of people won't talk about politics or about religion. They're things that can be very high stress, high tension, but the ability to have those boundaries and have an intellectual discussion while still being able to respect each other, right? And maybe you've been in situations where you're trying to have a conversation with somebody and you feel as if your intellectual boundaries are being crossed. Kind of similar to that would be emotional boundaries, right? In that feeling of somebody is not respecting the way that you feel. And something that's important to remember is that all feelings are valid. So even if it's not, let's say, justified according to somebody else, those boundaries are still incredibly important. Sexual boundaries, pretty clear. Nobody's allowed to touch you in any kind of way that makes you feel uncomfortable. Material boundaries, somebody taking something of yours that you're not comfortable with them taking. And then the biggest one here is time boundaries. All the time we hear a lot of, well, I just don't have time. Teachers often don't have time. So, and there's some ways that we can be more protective of our time. So we're going to do one quick reflection here. And this really is just for you. I'm going to encourage you to do a little bit of writing. And think about some of like a situation where you feel like your boundaries may have been crossed, and maybe it was more of a time boundary. Maybe somebody was really trying to get you to do more than you're capable of doing in that moment. Or maybe it was more of a material boundary where somebody is borrowing something for you, you're not quite really wanting to give it to them. But just think about that. And then in addition to, we're going to look at these strategies of how you might have been able to strengthen that boundary. So the first one we have here is the power of and that really is just being able to acknowledge somebody else's request. So you might just say, yes, so I'm hearing what you're going through. This must be really stressful for you. And I'm really busy at this moment too. Can I please get back to you tomorrow in another 15 minutes? It's okay to say no or not yet. We can ask for help, and we can also delegate to others. So just kind of take a moment and reflect on this. You can write on it. You can just kind of think about it. But maybe what's something that you could use, let's say even tomorrow, if somebody was imposing on your boundaries. So it looks like we're getting close to the end of our time. So I apologize if you don't have enough time for that, but it's definitely something you can continue to go back to. So we are going to just, before we close up, just take a moment of acknowledgement that some days are going to be more of a struggle than others. That is okay. And you need to forgive yourself in order to keep going and growing. And with that, I will hand it back to Jenna to do our closing.
I skipped a slide there. All right. We want to give a moment for reflection. Oftentimes when we are in a learning environment, we may teach you here, teach up until the bell, or if a webinar, write content right until the end. Well, research shows when you have just a moment to sit back and reflect and process a bit, you can actually retain the information a little bit better. So we're going to ask you just to take a moment, think about what you've heard today, what you experienced even more so, and what's one strategy, what's one tool that you feel like is going to help your mental health and your overall well-being. So we talked about the vagus nerve. We talked about brain in the palm of your hand, flipping your lid by Dr. Daniel Siegel. We did bee breathing. We did our 1-minute meditation with our to-do list. We did our mind map. We talked about boundaries. We did a lot in this hour. So just take a moment. The moment is yours. Process what was most impactful for you. And then when you have that, we're going to ask you to put it in the chat and share it in this community space with all of us, please. All right, I did see bee breathing. That was a direct message to me. Oops, sorry about that.
Jeannie said she loves the 1-minute meditation and the bee breathing. We got another bee breathing and pen to paper. Bee breathing. Bee breathing. It's a fun one.
We should get a group going. We can all just rock and hum.
Ooh, I like intentional pausing and not yet. All from Liberty. That's awesome.
Thank you all
guys.
for sharing. And really, we wanted to share just some strategies that are simple and easy and effective in the moment, right? So it's not something that you put off when you get home to help yourself with stress. It's something that you can do throughout the day to help yourself with your mental health and your overall well-being. All right, I think we're ready for Q&A. Are we ready?
Yeah, we have a minute left, so I just want to, if we might go a little over, but if you guys need to peel off, we understand. If you guys have any additional questions, let me know. I did get a few while we were doing the different activities. So first one to you, Jenna, is my staff could really use these activities. It's been a hard year for them. As a principal, how can I integrate some of the strategies to improve their overall well-being?
Wow, good, really good question, and way to acknowledge that where your staff is at and that your staff could benefit from some of these strategies. So we can think about when we provide, professional development or professional learning, or we have those, weekly meetings, our staff, we can provide quick grounding activities to help them be regulated. So just like when we think students coming in and oftentimes they are not regulated, they need a moment to ground, to kind of tap into self and be present for you in order to learn. Our teachers, our staff are the same way. They often come dysregulated. They had a full day of teaching, sometimes very stressful. So take a moment to intentionally pause. Giving them that moment to pause. It could be that 1-minute meditation. It could be connecting to gratitude. It could be that bee breathing. But that grounding is really important because it allows the brain to slowly get back online, where you can have your teachers and your staff actually processing with their prefrontal cortex and not reacting down below.
Thank you so much, Jenna. Atsi, I have another question for you. I know my staff needs this. However, I think using the word like meditation isn't going to land with all of them. Any advice on this?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Sometimes we've got those buzzwords, meditation, mindfulness, sometimes, or even self-care can kind of carry some weight and people automatically think one thing or might have a negative connotation. So you can use, I think, just always more casual language, like, let's just take a moment to relax. Let's take a moment to ground ourselves. Let's take a moment to connect with each other, so that you're not necessarily using some of those buzzwords, but you are still able to get some of that that practice and that exercise with your staff.
Thank you, Otzi. We have another question that came in. I would like to share this during our staff training, but how? So are there any like best practices or just some tips?
Yeah, I would say bit by bit. So sometimes what we do is when we are rolling out new information to staff, or maybe it might not be new, it might be a reminder, we put it all out there. This is what it is. This is how we're going to do it. Okay, we did mindfulness. Remember to do it for yourself, self-care, and remember to do it for your students. So take it slow and take it in chunks and weave it into a part of your climate and culture. So it's just what you do. So when you're meeting with each other, before you get into content, instruction to do, you take a moment and you connect to self. And when we can connect to self, we can connect to others. So just a moment, 1 minute should do, and make it a part of your everyday practice. It can be embedded into your agenda for your staff.
Awesome. Thank you, Jenna. I like that. And I think people will buy into it more if you continue to do it with, like the bit by bit approach. It's so that it's not just checking it off the list. Oh, we did this for Mental Health Awareness Month. It really is part of your culture, like you were saying. So we have one more question that meditation makes me sleepy. Do you have any strategies to address sleepiness while I meditate? I think it's a popular one. Popular question. Does it, you want to take that, or who wants to take that?
I'll let Jenna take this one.
Yeah, I can take this one. I've heard this one quite a bit, actually. And congratulations, it's great that meditation makes you sleepy. So you know that you have an effective strategy to use at night to help yourself actually get to sleep. So I would recommend your longer meditations at night before you go to sleep, and you can actually lay down. So that's great. Go into sleep. Use that as a tool to help improve your sleep practice. Now, during the day, you definitely don't want to fall asleep in your car before you walk into the school building, right? So make your meditations shorter. Sit up, don't lay down if you fall asleep, and try to meditate when you are meditating during the day. If the sun is out, meditate by a window or actually outside where you can feel the sun on your body, on your face, and that'll help so you don't get into that like really deep delta brainwave where you actually then fall asleep.
That's a good tip. All right, I think that's it for questions. We could just wrap up our last few slides really quickly. If you do have time, and this will also go out in an email with the recording of the webinar, and we do have some handouts that I'm going to share, but I'm going to drop in the chat. Just your feedback matters. We really appreciate your presence, and I'm sorry we went over, but we really appreciate your time. And just let us know how we did. We want to have more webinars like this, just to get some ideas out there and collaborate. So if you could click on the link in the chat and fill that out later when you have time, that would be awesome. So I expect the recording either tomorrow or on Monday from us. And I can even put some of the questions and answers in there as well, just so you guys have some of those. And then if we go the next slide, our next webinar is going to be 2 weeks from today. And it's the same time, so 3:30 to 4:30. This is going to be focused more on student wellness and how we can support students with intensive social, emotional, and behavioral needs. So that's going to be hosted by our founder and CEO, Dr. John Eiler, and Kenny McCarthy, who's another educational consultant. So you guys should automatically be registered if you signed up today. Just check your calendar that it's on there with the Zoom information. And then if you need to re-register, it's the same link you got from this. So that's for the next in 2 weeks. And then if we have more webinars, just join our mailing list if you're not already on there, and we will share other opportunities. And if you have any questions regarding the content on here with this webinar, I'm going to just put Otzi's and Jenna's email in the chat. And this will also be shared in the follow-up email. If you have specific questions, feel free to reach out to them. And then, of course, if you want to learn more about our trainings and offerings, feel free to go to our website, give us a call, email. We're always here to help. And we really do work alongside school districts and staff. So just know we have a huge heart for all this work, and we really want to help make everything better within our school districts. And then the last thing, just to touch on, we do have a conference this summer. It's an in-person one in Temecula, California. So yay, wine country. It is Cinco de Mayo too, so you might want to get your tequila on later after this. But anyways, we are going to be having the conference, and it is specifically designed, the C5 Summer Institute is specifically designed to support students with significant social, emotional, behavioral needs. So that's what we're going to touch on a little bit in that next webinar, but this conference is all about that. And we will have different strands for sessions to address administrators, support staff, and classroom staff. So that's going to be really engaging, and we look forward to having you. So just check out our website if you want to look into that. But yeah, that's it for today. And thank you again for going 7 minutes over. That's a wrap.